Passionate about music.
Hazel O'Connor, fantastic to see you.
Phil, fantastic to see you.
And thank you very much for coming down to GaydarRadio as well.
Yeah, first time. It's an amazing place.
I was watching Breaking Glass, your movie, just last night. How do you look back on that? Because obviously that's a big part of your career, isn't it? The 80s. That was when you really hit the big time, wasn't it, with the movie?
I think looking back on Breaking Glass for myself, it would be dual-edged all the time because it was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And I got to write all the songs, and I hadn't really ever written songs before then, to be honest. I was a bit of what's that? What do we call it in Ireland? I always trying things on, and at that point in my life, I thought, I really want this. I want this so I can make an album of my choice, which is what that album was, and I would get the producer of my choice because I'd have the film backup. And so all of that, from an artist's point of view, was fabulous. But from the other point of view, it was a little bit of an albatross for the rest of, for the next 10 years or so, because you've either, when you make something that's really big and then you don't make something really big again in that way, then everybody goes, oh, she's on a comeback now.
Yeah.
After you've hit your kind of pinnacle, as people seem to think, and so that kind of got on my nerves a little bit for a while. And for a while I didn't want to do stuff like Will You or Eighth Day, because I thought, oh no, everybody's just seeing me as that person from that film. But
you're more than that. A lot more than
and
that.
you know what? In the end, in your life, we all make that decision about ourselves. We are the sum parts of all of what we do, everybody. So
it's
I
such
realised
a rare
that
film
later.
as well, because I think it's getting about 50, 80 quid, isn't it, on certain sites. I think a lot of people are wanting it because it's deleted, I think, now, isn't it?
Yeah,
as a
it's coming out again though, because we've had talks with Mohammed Al Fayed, who owns the rights to it, because Dodi Fayed produced the film.
Of course, yeah.
So this year we should be bringing it out.
Excellent.
Hopefully.
Do you recognise the person in it? Do you recognise you in the movie? Obviously, you're playing a character, but it's kind of part real, isn't it, as well? Because the music was yours.
And also there was a problem because a lot of the storyline was mine, because it got written in conjunction with doing lots of what would you do if, Hazel, and then I would tell the director, Brian Gibson, what I would do or what had happened. So a lot of the characters slightly based on real people, absolutely actually based on real people, and the record company were for real, and they ended up doing some terrible things to me later. So it was all based on reality. And I always used to be kind of blasé and go, yeah, it's about somebody else, so it's not about me. But I think if you base a story on extracts of your own life, then it could come back and bite you in the bum. And lots of the stuff did come back and bite me in the bum.
Very inspiring as well, because I think if you look at it now, especially nowadays, you can see Lady Gaga, you can see Kylie, especially the whole robot outfit that you wore, very futuristic. It was, with the neon and everything else. I think a lot of female artists nowadays, quite inspired by that.
Do you think so?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah,
I'm pleased about that.
You can see that coming through. Looking back at it now, I mean, obviously you've got those artists that are coming through nowadays, especially the last 5 years. What do you think of female artists now compared to the 80s? Because it was a very strong time, wasn't it? You had Susie Sue, you had Toya, you had yourself. Do you think it's a strong time?
I think we've got a great rash of brilliant female artists at the moment. Top of my list would be Adele.
Yeah.
Because she stands for the brilliant female vocalist, not brilliant figure or brilliant figure. That's like by the by, that's not what it's about.
And very much herself as well.
Yeah. So I think she's lovely. Sad loss that Amy Winehouse has gone. Really sad loss to the music industry. And Lady Gaga, I was looking at her Monster Ball a couple of months ago, and I just thought, she's really something else. I think there's even more, but those would be my big favourites.
Yeah,
at
for
the
people
moment.
that push the boundaries.
Yeah.
Because of course you still do that now. It's I think you're still a punk. Still a punk nowadays.
Whatever the word
in a
punk
different way.
means, I think for me anyway, the punk era meant energy, and that's what I've always been interested in, and therefore energy that I perform now with Claire and Sarah. We combine and make an energy, and that's what transfers, I think, to the people, or transmits to our audience. I really do. I believe that so strongly. All the rest is just BOLLOX. You know, it's to do with energy and excitement that people make together.
I mentioned Kylie, obviously, who I think is actually inspired by you, partly along with other artists as well. Yeah, definitely. Especially some of her outfits that she wore on previous tours that she's done, the whole robotic, futuristic thing. You did a cover of hers.
For
on a TV show.
Yeah.
With Vernon Kay.
Oh, yes.
Well, obviously he wasn't duetting, but he was presenting.
God, it'd be awful. I'd be singing to his belly button. He's so tall.
That was Can't Get You Out of My Head, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you really changed it. You really changed it.
Yeah, I love the idea of that. I think that song's a great song, and the hook's so good. And it's a kind of an anthem, isn't it? You know, it's definitely a gay anthem.
Well, she's a gay icon. You're a gay icon as well.
Well,
huge gay icon.
I just thought it would be really mad to do that.
Best of both worlds.
So I look back at it now and I think, again. But it was cool because I did that with Martin Rushent, and that we kind of kept a recording of that, of an album that never quite got finished because sadly Martin Rushent died in July last year. So somewhere amongst his stuff is an album with the recording of that on for future reference.
I know that Simon Levans is a massive fan of yours, as am I. And I've got to say, when I was growing up as a gay teenager, I was so thankful that people like you were around and doing stuff, because it was almost like, I don't know, you could, without getting too into it, you connected with people that, especially artists like Susie Sue, that broke the boundaries and that maybe considered were outsiders.
Outsiders.
In the music industry.
I think so, yeah. I think that's where I've always stood, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I think that's
know.
a good thing, though, isn't it?
Oh, it is now, but of
Because
course...
you do your own thing.
Yeah, but years ago, or sometimes, I think, God, when will I ever be allowed in? Into the insiders.
Do you want to be, though?
No, not really.
No.
I'm quite happy. I like it now that I've been a continual rebel and outlaw to the general mainstream music industry. Very happy about that. But there was a time, it's a bit like when you're a kid at school and you feel like you're a little bit different and you want to be on the in crowd. But I never was. I always had a crowd, but we were never the in crowd. We were always the weirdos, and I like being that.
Yeah.
Because it means you can grow old into it, or you can be it.
Because I think the punk movement went hand in hand with the gay movement as well. I think it was connected, wasn't it?
I think so, because it just stood outside, and it's like, don't try and patronise us. But of course, they always do try and patronise you, all the businesses, don't they?
Yeah.
What was one of them? I remember one. Just after the film had come out, I was told that I was going to the royal premiere of Kramer versus Kramer, because Breaking Glass was being played as a part of it was being played as the B film for the royal premiere, because they were doing the Great British Musical, and at the time they had the woman who was in the first ever British musical, I think it was Jessie Matthews, and then they had me, who at that time was the last woman to be in British musical. And the film studio phoned and said, great news, you're going to get to meet the Queen. And I said, ooh, now that could be a problem, because, to be honest, my fan base, none of us are royalists, and I'd love to go to the premiere, but I don't think I should meet the Queen, because it doesn't become me. It's not my thing. And so I didn't. I always wished I had, because I wanted to, do that for my mom, to go, that's my daughter.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem politically right for me, because I am, a Republican, really, in my heart and soul.
I thought you was going to say meeting the Queen. It was going to be someone like Boy George or something.
You're going to meet the Queen.
The more important part. You're on tour across Gay UK. I'm so pleased to say that you're, making some great music still, and obviously you're on tour throughout March and April.
Yes.
And you're doing it's your latest album.
Yeah.
And a Great Hits.
Give You My
as well.
Sunshine is the latest album, which I do with Claire and Sarah, Claire Hurst, Sarah Fisher. And we've been working about 3 years together now. And we kind of started because we all have an interest in jazz, bluesy standards. And we threw my songs in that fit into that genre. And last year we recorded Give You My Sunshine, where we've done some co-writes now that works in with the vibe that we do.
Yeah, because it's great, because it's very, Celtic. You've got that whole kind of stripped back sound as well. It's very traditional, isn't it?
Yes, it works very well for us ladies.
Yeah. George Michael, I remember I interviewed you, it must have been about the same time, 6 years ago. You told me a story about
Oh, yeah.
Water.
Oh God, yeah. Well, that was.
Was it the first time you met George?
No, when I was having court case, when I was having battles with the ex-record company, his publishers, Morrison and Leahy, I was put in touch with them and we became friends. Morrison and Leahy did, and they said, "Oh, you got to hear this new band, Hayes," and they played me Wham Rap, and then pretty soon after that, we made friends because my mate used to work down the Camden Palace and she was doing PR there, and we were all in the same orbit of friends. And then it was I don't know what kind of party that was, but George was coming and Martin Kemp and Shirley, that was when they first got together at that party. It was really sweet. Yeah, they were smooching there at my party. But anyway, George arrives with his cassette of his demo for his new single, and it was going to be his first solo thing, which was called Careless Whispers. Or Whisper Whispers, I always get that wrong. Anyway, so we all listened to it, and as you do when you're with your mates, oh, brilliant, great, yeah. And then party finished, they all went, and I always switched the doorbell off when I used to have parties so that I'd get no latecomers, somebody going, "Oh, I think there's a party around here," and they're pissed and stupid at the door, go all away. So I turned the doorbell off, did the washing up, went to bed, and about 5:30 in the morning, somebody's knocking on my bedroom window, and I go, "God, what's that?" Open the curtains, and it's George going, "Hayes, Hayes." When I get to the front door, see he's soaking wet. I said, "How did you get so wet?" And he says, "Well, I forgot which was your bell, so I rang them all." And there was a woman upstairs who had hated the party. It was bonfire nights, because that was the other thing. Poor George, same night, got a blooming rocket through his quiff. Yeah. And he was doing Bad Boy then, so he had this big quiff, and the rocket went out of control.
Shouldn't laugh, could have been disastrous.
No, can you imagine? And he should have been gigging that night, but he'd got the flu or something like that, and this rocket went up, and it went... And then suddenly it went, and I could see it going straight at him, over into his head, and burnt a hole through his quiff. And then, of course, later the upstairs neighbour had got so fed up with him ringing her bell, she chucked a bucket of water out the window on top of him.
I bet it wasn't your last party, though.
It was in that house, actually, because that woman really didn't like me much. So. And
you covered one of his songs as well, One More Try.
Yeah, because that one works so well with the harp. And we used to love doing that, Cormac and I. Was that your
peace offering?
No, he forgave me a long time ago for that. It was really sweet, actually, because we saw him in LA after I'd just got married in the beginning of the 90s. And he was playing a big gig, and all my lawyers were his lawyers. I mean, we had the same kind of problems in a way, but he had better people that were his enemies. They kind of let go, whereas mine never did. And can remember afterwards, there was loads of, pop stars and whatnot in a big kind of pub type room. And then somebody was sent in to get me. And then there was another room, which was like inner sanctum. And I was so thrilled. It was brilliant. And all the way through the whole thing, it was George saying to my new husband at that time, because they went to the same school in Bushy, "Do you remember Miss Smith? Do you remember Miss Smith?" And that was the whole... It was just so really sweet, a teacher of theirs that they both had, and they were about the same age. So, nice times always with George, always. Yeah. And I hope he's well at the moment. Yeah. Heard he wasn't very well.
He looked great at the Brits.
Dear George. Fantastic. One of the best songwriters in our business, I think.
Passionate about music.